that self connection is the first step of self love.
Right.
And being in the army, being playing sports all the time, and that word self love, I've heard it a lot and always considered it soft, you
Yeah.
know, as a fault to me. I always considered self love, yeah, okay, whatever. But going through that experience and then realizing that, yeah, you gotta love yourself.
Welcome, everybody, to Unleash Your Greatness. I'm excited today to have a guest on. His name is Scott Spears, and he is a wealth of information and life experiences. And I just want to welcome him. He is a Army veteran who's been through combat zones. He's also a consultant who's worked around the world with many companies. And right now he's a life coach, or excuse me, a life lessons coach, teaching people how to balance their life. So a life balance coach. That's what I was trying to say. Scott, welcome. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Hopefully I didn't mess that intro up too bad.
Oh, no.
You have so many amazing things and accomplishments. It was hard to know which ones to list. So yeah,
you.
like I was saying in the intro, you've got all this amazing things that you've done. You've been around the world, not only as in the military, but as a consultant for many businesses. And you've got this amazing story of going, just 100 miles an hour and eventually hitting the wall. And I'm not sure exactly what part of the story we want to pick up on, but because there's so much. Yeah, why don't you? I guess I want to kind of just pick your brain and hear your journey from where you went as and maybe you tell me where the story should pick up. But I would imagine it's somewhere in the military doing amazing things. You were in the Army. You and I chatted a little bit about that when we talked the other day, and that was fun, by the way. But yeah, let's maybe
it was
and let you talk.
no, it was. I started out when I was 17. I had to have my parents sign a letter for me to join the Army because I wasn't 18 yet. But I kind of had it always in my mind that I just always felt like there was something else out there from where I grew up. Where I grew up was considered a fairly small town. It's unnoticeable now. I go back, I get lost. But no, it's I just felt there was just so much more out there to see and do, and the only way I could really get out there was joining the military. So I joined the Army. I learned how to work on the Army aircraft, and my first duty station, we were sent to Panama for Operation Just Cause, removing General Noriega. I think that was back in '89. Long time ago. And yeah, that's the first time ever experiencing anything as far as combat goes, getting shot at, etc. It's a real life-changing experience. So just turning 18, my birthday was over there. I had a different perspective on life after that, for sure. I just knew that there was just it could be gone at any moment. So from that time, I just had this. Okay, I've got to see everything that I can see that's out there, experience all that I can, because you just never know when it's your time, basically.
Yeah.
So after coming back from that experience, I was then shipped to Germany. I thought that was going to be a really cool assignment. Hey, Europe, get to travel. And maybe a couple months after getting over there, the Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm started in our unit. We were military intelligence. We were shipped over there, and again, experiencing that familiar feeling of, okay, am I gonna make it tomorrow or not? Every night we had Scud missiles shooting over our head and checking our chemical gear, making sure all of that was working. But with all of that, again, it just cemented my belief that I've got to live hard. Basically, I've got to try to experience everything that I can, get out there and just do all that's available. So after a few more years, I decided to get out of the military, and I started taking different roles back in California, Texas, New York, in telecommunications, which led me to the global consulting position that I was doing for the last 15, 20 years. And yeah, it was another big experience. I'm so grateful for, because I got to see so much, experience so many different cultures, people, and that work experience was great. But as you mentioned in the intro there, I hit a wall, and that happened just about 3 years ago. I was juggling. I took so much on, believing that I could handle everything, and that's one of the lessons I learned about ego, um, where, okay, I can handle that, I can handle this, I can show these guys. I've always felt like I've had to work harder than the next person. So 3 years ago here in Colombia, I was in Medellin, and I just started having problems with my breathing. Never had that experience ever in my life. And I got up to get something to drink, and luckily my girlfriend at the time and her brother were there, and they said I just collapsed, went pale, eyes rolled back, etc., all of that. And that was not the wake up call that you would think would be for someone. For me, in fact, I was, it was a really big moment. Yeah, I mean, and scary, but I felt like, okay, I'm going to be like the $6 Million Man, if you remember that old show a long time ago.
Yeah.
I can be rebuilt. You know, I can get back in the game. I got to show them that I haven't missed a step. So I took all kinds of tests when I came back here to Bogota, and I took um, neurology tests, brain tests, heart tests, breathing tests, everything that I could think of, because I don't like to say this, but I don't trust a lot of doctors. So I choose to go take all the tests that I think that would benefit me. And I found a lot of things. I had sleep apnea. I had PTSD. I was diagnosed with PTSD. I was having anxiety attacks after that. I had some nutrition problems, eating what I thought were nutritious foods that were actually allergic to me. So, I mean, perfect example would be like eggs. Eggs every morning I'm having with my protein shake and everything, but actually that was basically killing me over the years with inflammation. So I rebuilt myself physically, but I totally neglected the mental side of health.
Mm.
And that takes me back to just at the end of 2019, before the COVID pandemic. And I have what I call, in different words, but I'll say it nicely here, a tsunami of undesired circumstances happen all at once. Right at the end of like November 2019, my employment contract expired. Um, let's see what else. I had that's when I was also diagnosed with PTSD. My daughter's university savings that I had built up over the years was stolen. My relationship that I was in fell apart. And so everything just happened at once. And it really crashed hard on me into like a spiral of depression at that time.
Wow.
So from there, I I was trying to fix myself here, doing meditation, doing different type of mental exercises and everything, but it was too much, and I just needed to get away. I hadn't traveled for about a month, which was a long time for me at that time because every week I was used to being in a different airport.
Yeah.
And I actually called a friend of mine that lives in India, and I've never been to India. It's always been a big hole on my map. Like, I got to go there someday. Um, and I poured my heart out to her and told her everything that was happening and said, hey, I need to get away. Can you recommend maybe some places that I can take a look at? And she did. And it was actually a very liberating experience for me because it was the first trip I didn't really plan. Um, I'm a real big planner. When I was doing consulting for these companies around the globe, a lot of it was time management with projects, global, regional programs that I was putting together, coordinating so many different things, and I was really, really good at that on the professional side. But on the personal side, I would get home and like, I've kicked my shoes off. I don't want to be organized at all. So
Wow.
I went to India and I didn't plan anything. I just planned to go to a couple different locations. I went to a yoga university, which had a really good program in depression, Ayurveda. It was is not really just yoga as an exercise. It's yoga as a way of life.
Yeah.
So a lot of different teachings, ancient Eastern teachings there that were just so interesting, and it benefited me so much. Uh, I spent about 10 days, a couple weeks there first, and then I decided to go do a Vipassana meditation, which is a 10-day silent
Oh,
meditation where you disconnect from everything. When you go there, when you sign in and get in process, basically, kind of like the military, you give up your phones. If you have laptop, tablet, even your watch, even that was really hard for me to give away. The phones and everything I could give away easy. I could be totally disconnected, but the watch, it was like, but how am I going to know what time it is and everything, So, but
mm,
it was really, really interesting how that just forces you to look in instead of looking externally, like why this happened, why did that happen. It just gives you time to yourself, and that's something that I've never had for me in my entire life. And I just turned 50 not too long ago. So all of these things that I learned over there in India, sorry,
I was just gonna say,
all these things.
I've heard of people doing the 10-day silent uh meditation type things, and I've never done it, full disclosure, but I've always thought it would be so interesting to just like be completely silent for a period of time, not talk, not have anybody really talk to you, and just be alone with yourself. I think, and maybe you can shed some light, but I would imagine like you go in a lot and go really deep into who you are and who you want to be. And I would think it's definitely on my bucket
Yeah,
list
you really do.
experience. Um,
It's a great experience. Like you said, you do go in. You
yeah,
have no distractions. And the only thing you're there for is to meditate. And the toughest part for me was not really the meditation. Well, kind of the meditation, because physically you have to sit in a meditative pose,
yeah,
like a lotus pose, basically, and you sit there for an hour, 1 hour at a time.
right.
And it sounds easy, I'll just sit down and sit there for 1 hour and not move. But not moving for 1 hour,
Yeah,
sitting there in a meditative pose, can be extremely painful. And that's something that you also learn to do when you're going through this process, is the mind over matter. So you recognize the pain, but you don't give it the attention. And it's a really tough process that you work through during those 10 days. And the first 4 days, I was like, I can't, I gotta move, but then on the fourth day, actually, I said I had to have a tough conversation with myself and say, hey, you're here to do this and
Right.
do it properly, and follow the instruction. And that fifth day, I just worked through the pain, and I was able to go the rest of the time feeling the pain, recognizing it, but not giving it the attention. And that's really when that mind over matter starts kicking in, and then that opens up so much more when in the process of just looking inward.
Yeah. Do you think that, and obviously that's a very, I'm trying to think of how to put this into words. I think that could apply to anything in life, really, right? Like, I mean, how often do
It
we
does.
focus on the pain in our life, whatever that pain point is, whether it's a financial pain, a relationship pain, a physical pain. You're running a marathon and you're tired, whatever, right? There's so many things out there that we
Hmm.
consider a pain. And if we can understand the power of the mind to put all that pain out and just focus on what the outcome we want to be, man, that's power. Like, really, like, that's super powerful. And there's story after story of people who have done that, in concentration camps, in POW camps, and world, or in Vietnam, and so forth. And, um, they're able to just completely focus on what they want the outcome to be when the pain is over, instead of focusing on the pain. And I would assume that what you're talking about is similar. And again, I'm just trying to put myself in
Hmm.
that situation. I've never experienced anything quite like that. So, but yeah, that's amazing.
No, but you're absolutely right, and it truly is a power for you to harness. And hey, I just did it, and just touched tip of the iceberg on it, but it's like everything. It's like going to the gym and working out. You want to get, all Arnold Schwarzenegger? Okay, you're gonna have to put the work in, right?
Right,
You're
right.
not just gonna have it in one instance.
Yeah.
So the same thing with meditation, and that's where I'm helping some of my clients with meditation, is it's a practice, and it's so easy to get discouraged because the mind is always running. And the beauty of meditation is to settle the mind. You're never going to stop it. You're always going to have thoughts, but the whole idea behind the Vipassana is recognize it, acknowledge it, and let it go. And one of the words in Sanskrit, it is anicca, and that's the law of impermanence. So they teach you also that nothing is permanent, even our breath. If you think about it, I mean, we're constantly taking inhales and exhalations, and those are different
Wow.
with each one. Your body changes with each one. Or the analogy of standing in a river. When you're standing in a river, you're never standing in the same river. The water is always flowing.
Yeah.
So they get really deep in there with all of these analogies. You're like,
No,
oh
that's
wow, okay, yeah.
that's beautiful, actually. And and you're right. Like, nothing is permanent, right? Even, pain, suffering, happiness, joy, they're all fleeting to a point. I mean, we can always go back and remember that pain. We can go back and remember that happiness, and try to put ourselves back in that spot. But like you say, it's kind of like that river, right? It's always moving, always flowing through us. And I think that's important to keep in perspective, that when we are suffering, like you kind of talked about, you went into a depression, right? Um, when we
Right.
are suffering with depression, anxiety, hardship, adversity, whatever it is, that eventually it's going to end. Eventually, it's
Hmm.
either going to end because it's uh, things get better, or if you're suffering because you're sick or, on your deathbed, then it's going to end because you're going to move on to the next chapter of your existence, right? Whatever that is for you and your belief. My
Exactly.
belief is heaven, right? But for other people, that may be something else.
Right.
And I'm not saying that
Hmm.
shouldn't be like, I'm not saying I've actually had a lot of discussion about suicide with people lately. I'm not saying that you should just end it on purpose, but it will always come
Hmm.
to a conclusion, that pain, that suffering in one way or another. And definitely just keep fighting through it. Just like you had to learn with your meditations, right? Fight through that pain, get past the
Right.
mental anguish you were feeling, or the physical anguish, I guess, and put the mind over that.
Hmm.
So, no, I think it's
Exactly.
beautiful.
Exactly. And that actually helped take the mental part to the next level, where realizing, wow, I just proved to myself that I can work through this pain. That, okay, it's there, but I can let it go. Yeah, I don't have to give it all the attention that it's shouting for, basically. The same goes with the depression that I was feeling. I was able to say, well, that makes sense. I can apply this to all these things that happened to me,
Yeah,
and this situation, but it's done. It's done. It's gone. Let's keep moving forward.
very cool. And meditation is one of those tools or practices, whatever you want to call it. I think of it as a tool in my life because I think it's very helpful, and that is so helpful. And it's something I still have a lot of work to do on and to get better at, because I'll be meditating and things will pop into my brain, and I'm like, oh, my mind will start going, and I'm not very good at sometimes letting that
Mhm.
go and getting through it. But it's so powerful for sure to just be there, be present, focus on your breath, focus on your, different things that people tell you to focus on. Your breath usually is one of the top ones. Your heartbeat, your whatever,
Yes.
right? How you're sitting, how you're feeling. But yeah, it's such a
Hmm.
powerful tool, and it's neat that you were able to go through that for 10 days in silence, as hard as that probably was. So cool. Cause yeah, I think I would find it really hard because I do it for 15 minutes and I'm like, man, that was a struggle just for me. But again, it's one of the things that I'm really working at this year. It's one of my goals to get much better at, because I see the value, and hopefully other people see the values. You teach to your clients, so obviously it's a great tool that you value. So so amazing. So you I'm not trying to uh, get you off track of your story, but you go through this 10 days of silence, and then what happens after you come out of that?
Yeah. Me personally, I kind of didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay there, but the whole reason was I was being kind of cowardice, as I have to leave. I have to go and face the music now. Now I need to apply everything that I've learned to my life.
Yeah.
So I go back to Colombia, where I am now, and start facing everything that I have to face. So like, okay, now what am I going to do? And it was a little bit of a struggle at the beginning. I was applying my practices and everything. But of course, I'm not in a very secluded environment. I'm in downtown Bogota, lots of traffic, lots of people, and where I was living was really loud. So I had these headphones, thankfully, and
Right.
and I would just play some ambient music or something that would try to help me meditate. But it's not the same scene.
Yeah.
You're not in a temple somewhere, or some magical place where you feel like you're lost in a good way, in a good way.
Right.
So I come back to Bogota, and I start just feeling myself, feeling my way around. Okay, what am I going to do? Okay, so I just continued to study and practice what I learned for a few months, and then COVID uh, came, and I decided, okay, I've had enough of the city. I'm gonna move to the mountains, and get away from everybody. So I found this cabin where I am now, about 45 minutes outside of the city, very secluded, nature all around, and it was just perfect. It was the ideal situation for me to continue practicing what I learned in India. And but I started to get a little depressed at the same time, because at that time it's COVID, the politics that were going on. Just I was getting a little too much into the media, seeing all that was going on in the world with really no big hope of coming out of that. So I started to feel a little bit depressed again. But the beauty of what I learned in India with that Vipassana and continuing that practice is I was much more in tune with myself. I could hear that inner voice.
Yeah.
And that inner voice told me at that time, because I made a promise to myself when I was there in India, and I was like, okay, I have to do this once a year. I have to make time to set aside 10 days for me, because I've always been going 100 miles an hour for this company, that company, family, etc., but never really taking the time out for me. So I dedicated that to myself while I was in India. And when I was here and kind of getting a little depressed with everything, all the news and everything going on, that inner voice came and said, hey, it's time for you to do it now. You have nothing else going on right now. You're not working, you're not in a relationship. It's just you in this cabin up here in the woods. So do it. So I did it. I did another 10 days. I think that might have been in June of last year. And that one was tough because I had to do everything myself. I still had to cook and clean and everything. And I told my landlady, hey, please don't think I'm being rude, but I can't talk to anybody or even look at anybody for the next 10 days. I'm going to be doing this exercise. And when I came, well, during that meditation, I realized what I wanted to do, and that was to help people with the knowledge that I had. I just felt like with everything that I experienced in my life, not just personally, but professionally as well,
Yeah.
I should be able to help people, especially in this time of the pandemic where everybody's lives are changing. I've been really good at adapting my life to different cultures, different countries, on a weekly basis almost.
Right.
And feeling I can apply this somehow to help people now. And I put together a program, where I focus on time management first, and then life management and self transformation. And I focus on time management first because I think that's the foundation to all all of our wants and needs in life, basically. So I can speak from experience where I'll sign up for a bunch of classes that I want to take because it's going to make me better and everything, but I never organize my time properly to take it, and then they're sitting there for a year, you know, or the things that I wanted to do with my daughter for so minutes for so long keep getting pushed aside
Yeah.
because I didn't organize my time properly. So I take a lot of my project management experience from the professional side,
Sure.
along with the wellness techniques to reduce the stress and the anxiety. And I feel when people have their time organized, it's just the biggest thing that they don't have to worry about in their lives afterwards. If they know what they're going to do the next day, the next few days, they've got it organized, and it's a progress, then the stress automatically starts decreasing, the anxiety starts decreasing, and then they can start focusing on life, start focusing on what's important to them in their life, and then the self transformation after that. So this is the program I designed to help people along the way on that, in an eventual self transformation.
Very cool. And obviously there's the journey that you've been on has been very transformational, of course. And I want to kind of circle back to a few things in the story that I didn't want to interrupt because you're telling the story so beautifully. But I want to circle back to a few things. And number one is I think it's funny that the hardest thing for you to give up when you went into that that meditation temple was your watch, and here you are being a time, basically a time coach, a time balance coach, right?
Right.
It's just kind of find it ironic, but I think one of the hardest things and you can, uh, you know, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but you were a very high achiever. You were going, saying yes to all these projects, saying yes to all these things. And I think the hardest thing for many high achievers is to step back and take time for themselves and step back and say no, to certain things. And I think that that's a pretty big portion of why people get so stressed out and overextended in their commitments because they're not willing to say no to certain things. And I
You're absolutely right. Yeah, it takes a self-examination first and foremost. And that self-examination came for me during that meditation, that 10-day meditation, where I was forced to stop and just not worry about anything externally from myself. And that's such a liberating experience. And one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because I really truly wish everybody to experience that feeling, of self connection, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, having that self connection, right, is critical
Mhm.
to moving past all that self, I guess, inner pain that we feel so often or put on ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not managing my time well enough. All those things where I need to do more and more and more type mentality that so many people who are high achievers or trying to become something more in their life. And sometimes we just have to step back and say, I need to start saying no more to stuff that's not serving me. And that could be
Exactly. Exactly.
and that could be relationships, that could be activities, that could be habits, that could be diets, like you were talking about your egg allergy. It could be
Hmm.
so many things, and we need to evaluate that and be like, is this really serving me? Maybe I need to stop doing that and say no to that. And anyway,
Right. That self connection is the first step of self love.
right?
And being in the army, being playing sports all the time, and that word self love, I've heard it a lot and always considered it soft,
Yeah,
as a fault to me. I always
yeah,
considered self love, yeah, okay, whatever. But going through that experience and then realizing that, yeah, you gotta love yourself. You before anything else, you have to be what society teaches us not to be. What's the word? I'm blank here. Uh, Sorry.
you good. I do
Selfish, selfish.
know.
Society teaches us not to be selfish, but in actuality, we have to be selfish to a point. We have to have that connection to ourselves, knows know what makes us tick, what do we like, what do we want, and go for that, and don't feel bad for that. Um, that what I also say, like in the time management coaching that I give to people, is acknowledge your progress every day. You might not accomplish everything that you wanted to do that day, but look at what you did, and be kind to yourself, and be grateful for the opportunity to do what you were able to do.
Yeah,
So that's another thing, is being kind to yourself is huge.
yeah, for sure. uh, I feel the same way, and I teach that to so many of my clients as well. Is you need to not be so hard on yourself, because you know we all have good intentions, and our day is going to be jam packed of all this amazing things we're going to get done, and then you get like a small fraction of them done, and you beat yourself up and be like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not ever going to reach my goal, or I'm never going to be where I want to be. And we got to stop beating ourselves up and just be like, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to start fresh and start working on the stuff I didn't get done today, and just go
Hmm.
do the best you can, right? And just I think, yeah, I think we're obviously our worst critics, right? So many of us, and put ourselves through the ringer
Definitely,
more than anything.
definitely, especially in this age of instant gratification with internet, everything that can be happen with a push of a button. We forget we're human. We're not the computers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to remember that and treat ourselves as humans and not as machines.
Well, and yeah, great point. And I also think that we often compare ourselves to other people, because of the internet, right? We have Instagram and Facebook and
Hmm.
YouTube, and we see all these influencers or people that are successful, and we're like, oh, how come I'm not there yet? I was having a chat just yesterday with someone, and he's like, yeah, I don't know why. Like, am I a jerk? Do people not like me? Like, I put stuff out, and I'm like, no, you just got to keep at it. You got to remember that the people that have all these huge following and all this clout have been doing it forever. Like, it's not like
Right.
it was an overnight success, and we judge ourselves on where they are and not give ourselves credit for where we have come to. And I think that's important to always remember. Don't always
Totally.
judge yourself on where other people are. Judge yourself on where you've been and where you are now, and make sure that you give yourself that credit for sure. So yeah, I love.
Yeah, Adam, I got to give you a high five on that one, my man. That's
Yeah.
that's it. That's what it's about right there. I mean, we get lost with the social media, with media. We see the perfect example of what we want to be on screen.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Like I put a post on my Instagram today is curb your enthusiasm on your screen time. Yeah,
Right.
because the more you're looking at that, the more you're dreaming, I should be there, but and you're not putting in that work, like you said.
Yeah.
But the work has to be put in.
Yeah. Everybody has to put in the time, right? The work, you have to put in the hours. Like, that's just, there's no way about it. There's
Hmm.
no streamlined ability to success, right? There's no straight line to success, I guess is what I was trying to say. And yeah, you
Hmm.
have some of those overnight stories that you hear about, but even those overnight stories will tell you, like, hey, I still had stuff that I had to do. I had to work on it. I had to get there. And yeah, they might look like an overnight success, but they have their backstory just like everybody. And I remember a very
Yeah.
successful
Yeah.
author talking about her book that, went, New York Times bestseller and all this stuff. And she's saying, someone came up to her and said, oh, how does it feel to have your very first book go be so big? And she's like, actually, it's my sixth book. And it's like, yeah, people don't realize that.
Right.
Michael Jordan's
Hmm.
the athletes who put in all the hours and all the time, and we can't judge our ability on Michael Jordan's ability because he's put in the time, or the author who has the best-selling book, or the coach that has millions of dollars because he's got tons of followers and stuff. Well, they had to build it, and we just have to give
Right.
ourselves the
And
time.
I'd like to add on that too is the Michael Jordans. He didn't do it for money. He loved the game.
True.
He
Yeah.
loved the game, and he did it because of his love for the game. And same with like the author that you were speaking of. Yeah, she could have gave up after the first six books, but she was doing what she loved. And that's something that took me a while as a lesson to learn as well, because after a while I was doing this global consulting and I just wasn't at first I was really loving that job for the first 10 years or so. But the last 5, it was just, it's a pain. I'm not enjoying this. And that it just kind of weighed heavy. And the only reason I was doing it because the pay was good. The pay was really good at the time. So I continued to do it. But it's funny how life puts you in a situation where, look, giving you that lesson where you have to do what you love. Be true to yourself. Again, it goes back to that self-love, that self-care. Find what you love and do it with all of your energy, and eventually you'll be rewarded one way or another. Whether it's money, whether it's helping numerous people, what have you, you will be rewarded and you will be happy for doing what you love to do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's finding that purpose. Like you said, like the Michael Jordans or the author or whatever, they had a purpose. They loved what they did. They wanted to be at the top of their game. And so they did the work, they put in the time.
Hmm.
I'm curious. You said that you started not loving your consulting job. And I'm curious what your perception of why you stopped liking it or loving it, right? And I think that it happens to a lot of people where they've got a career, they're successful, they're making money, and all of a sudden they're like, I just don't love this. I don't. I was the same way. I had a successful career in the aerospace industry. I was doing pretty well for myself, and I'm like, you know what? It's not my passion. So I'm curious what your take was of why that happened to you, I guess.
Well, at the beginning, I loved it because it was new. It was working with so many different cultures, almost on a weekly basis, going to different countries, different people, meeting great colleagues along the way. And having the companies that I worked for, they trusted me. And it felt good coming from being an employee for many years and doing the 9 to 5 job that I couldn't stand and was always trying to find how can I get out of this. And
Yeah.
and luckily I got into the consulting, and I was doing what I love, traveling, meeting different people. The company trusted me. I was able to do a lot of good work,
Yeah.
and I could see a difference with the projects that I was working on. And the last 5 years, I was moved here to Latin America region, and the whole management team here was very inexperienced and was a tough nut to crack to get anything done the right way. Basically, I would deliver a project and then I would leave to go do the next project, and they would ruin it in a nice terms 3 months after I leave. And then I would have to leave the current project I'm on to go back to that one, fix that one. I was dealing with a lot of hostility. The customers were so angry with that too. So it turned from delivering good work to customers into constantly trying to calm them down, dealing with a lot of their anger, which that energy just kind of starts absorbing into me.
Mm.
And it that's pretty much the turning point, why I started to not enjoy the job anymore. So that's why.
And I think, and I felt the same way in my job. There was a lot of things that I didn't enjoy because of some of the hostility or the pain that I was experiencing in the workplace. And not that I was like bullied or anything like that, but it just, yeah, it just didn't feel right. As well as I didn't feel like I was living up to my potential as an individual. And so,
Mhm.
I quit to go and do coaching full time like yourself, and it's been a crazy ride, but super amazing and fun at the same time. Um, yeah, it's just I yeah,
Yeah,
so
you raise a good point. You're not living up to your potential, and that's how I felt. I felt like I had so much more that I could do,
yeah,
but I'm wasting time cleaning up a mess and dealing with angry customers with bad energy, and it just eventually wears on you. And yeah, that's why I just started to and started developing a negative vibe, negative energy within me. And I'm always the kind of person that's always happy go lucky, hey guys, let's go do this, do positive,
yeah,
and never trying to say anything negative out of my mouth. But that last couple years was, I found myself, you know, feeding into that energy, and it was bad. It was bad. So it's amazing how life uh, pushes you in the direction that it wants you to go.
for sure. And I think as that life pushes us, we just need to be willing to let it lead or to take the leap, I guess, and say, yeah, that's the way I'm being pushed or drawn to go and go that way. So, and I think you bring up another,
Yeah, it's ultimately our choice.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, I was just going to add on that where, like during the depression I had a choice of either going all the way down and hitting rock bottom and just splatting there like a water balloon,
Yeah.
or like a basketball bouncing.
Mm.
And that's the analogy I always take with people who are going through depression. It's like you always have a choice. You go down as far as you want to go down, and but you have to recognize where is it you're going to bounce.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be like that basketball and bounce and start taking that incline.
Yeah, I love that. And I've loved when people talk about rock bottom. I've heard the saying that rock bottom is a great place to start building a foundation as well. So,
Hmm.
we
That's a
can
good
build
one
on
too.
that
Yeah.
and bounce back up. So, yeah, beautiful. And I one thing that came to mind when you were talking about, kind of the toxic environment you were living in at that time, working in, and environment really has a big impact on us. And I don't think a lot of people realize, and sometimes it can be very subtle, to the office is being cluttered or, different things, but it can be very aggressive too, like an environment, a very toxic work environment with people who are negative or, people not doing their job, or you feel like you're the guy who has to be always dumped on all the work. And, there's tons of stuff,
Hmm.
but, environment plays a big role in how we feel, not only about ourself, but our future, right? And I
Right.
think that's when people kind of get that itch, like, hey, this isn't quite for me. Maybe I'm not doing what I should be, and where that life push kind of starts pushing or pulling us in a new direction. So,
Right. Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's only so much that we can do on our end.
yeah,
But like you give the example of that negative atmosphere, maybe at work, you have
mhm,
people constantly talking negative, gossip, etc. You really can't do much about that, but try to kill them with kindness.
yeah,
But even that gets tiresome and starts wearing you out as well. So, yeah, being having your ear out and eyes open and being in touch with yourself and with your energy, with your vibration. If you're not feeling comfortable, maybe it's time to take a look at where you are and where you want to be.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Beautifully said. Um, so you you got the three areas that you help people in. You've got time management, which is so important. I like if people can like conquered that one thing, I think they're way ahead of the game on 90% of the population. But just time
Yeah.
management, right?
Yeah.
And then you got the wellness, like I'm trying to remember the term you use, but um, the life,
Yeah. Life management.
yes,
Life management, basically. Hmm.
um, where I would assume that includes your mind, your emotions, being healthier, those types of things. And then you also have the
Right.
transformation. And I think that's amazing that you've created
Self-transformation. Yeah.
self-transformation. Amazing that you've created a program all around that. And, you know, again, those are three areas that I would say 98% of the human population probably could increase in some way or another, if not everybody. So for sure, that's
Mhm.
awesome. So I kind of want
Thank you.
to ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing just a few of the main points that you like to work with, so that you can kind of give like a little bit of a glimpse, I guess, into that program, what it looks like for people.
Sure, sure. The time management basically is helping people, what I call calm the mental storm. Uh, I had a friend that used to, uh, I'm not going to say bother me, because never do I feel bothered when somebody comes to me feeling, I mean, they don't even ask for the help. I could just see the anguish, and I could feel it. And I was like, what's going on? And she would be like, I just have, she couldn't even talk straight. I have so many things on my mind. I don't know where to start. And it wasn't just professionally, it was personal as well. I said, okay, calm down. Let's sit down. Let's take an hour and let's just write it all out, you know. And we write out everything that's on her mind, first of all. And 95% of it are things that she wanted to do, whether immediately or in the future, etc.
Mm.
And then I would take that, my project management experience, and then I would start classifying those into, like, okay, is this an activity, or is this a task, or is this related to a project? So a lot of the things that she had going on were like related to one thing,
Mm.
like, let's say, starting a business. Okay, so all these 10 things are related to this one thing. So let's make a project out of that. And the rest of these things are going to go on a daily agenda, and we're going to schedule them in a responsible, kind way where they're achievable targets.
Yeah.
And then I help as kind of a accountability manager, following up daily, like, hey, you got this due at 5 o'clock today. Where are you at? You need help, you need to reschedule that, etc. So basically that's getting the time organized. And then once they feel comfortable with their time and they can do it on themselves, because I don't want to do that. I'm trying to teach them to do this on their own as a sustainable habit, which is going to benefit them in the long run, and eventually teach others. This is just great information for anybody to have in organizing. So once they feel organized, they're much more relaxed. And then we can start focusing on the life management. Start focusing on, okay, now what are your goals? What when do you want to reach these, and why are these your goals? So a lot of people will say, I want this new car. You know, why do you want that new car?
Right.
Is it let's dig deep and find out why you have these goals. Yeah, and what's important in your life, not necessarily to you, but to your life. Yeah, not telling you to be selfish at this point. So when we're doing the life management, we're looking at everything encompassing your life and what you want out of it, and then introducing different wellness practices like manifestation, the meditation, to help you
Mm.
visualize these goals happening.
Yeah.
Different practices like that, and some journal writing, basically, just different habits that are going to help you stay disciplined to reach those goals. And then after we do the life module, we'll move into the self transformation, which is when you start looking in and being selfish. And what do you as a person want to achieve out of your life? Not to have the family in the house and the car and things like that. That's kind of society's expectations. What are your expectations? So we drill down deep into finding out what are those, and then taking what we learned in the life management and the time management modules and put those all together in the self-transformation. So you have the tools that you learn from time and life and apply those to self. But that's when we were talking about being selfish, taking the time for yourself and getting in tune with yourself and finding out what is it that you want.
Wow. That's awesome. And, I agree 100% with all those things, because it's so familiar to what I also help people with. You know, dig deep on your goals. Why do you want that car? You got to find out what that why is. And
Right.
if you really want transformation, you got to set up the tools or use the tools and then have them become a habit. So that's awesome. Very cool. I Before we kind of wrap up the last little bit here, I just want people to be able to know where they can get a hold of you, find you, look more into your program. Where can they go to find out more about you, Scott?
Well, my website is scottjspears.com. And my email is scott@scottjspears.com. And I'm actually doing this year for 2021 on Instagram. I'm posting tips in the 4 quarters. So first quarter this year, we're doing time management. So I'm trying to put some time management tips out there for people on a daily basis. And then in Q2 is, I believe, like mind sweeping, basically clearing the mind of all bad habits. Start focusing on what do you want in your goals. And I'm sorry, I don't remember what Q3 is. Q4, no, Q3 is transformation, some transformation tips, self-transformation tips. And then in Q4, we start looking at energy.
Cool.
I wanted to end the year 2021 having people in tune with their own energy, especially going into the holidays with, a lot of stress and a lot of things going on, realizing how to focus on their energy. And so that's on Instagram. My Instagram is at time_life_self. And like I said, I can be contacted on any of those for further information
Great.
and help anybody that needs it.
Awesome. And I will be sure to put any of those links down below this podcast or YouTube video, wherever you're listening or watching this, so that they can also find those very easily and get a hold of you. So thank you for sharing that. So to kind of wrap up the last little bit of the discussion here, I always like to ask this, and it is, if there was one to maybe 3 things that you would say someone needs to unleash their greatness, what would those be?
I would say get in touch with yourself. Make time for yourself. Number one. That's the biggest step into unleashing your greatness, because you really don't know what is it that you want to be great at
Yeah.
until you look inside.
Love
Yeah. And then make a plan. Organize your life and make a plan to achieve that. That's what I would say the 3 major things would be is first, find it by looking in, giving yourself the time to do that, then organizing your life into a plan that you can achieve them.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree 100%. I did a training today on almost the exact same thing. So we're definitely on the same page there. I believe that those are definitely keys to becoming great and unleashing that greatness that's in each one of us. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. So, Scott, thank you so much for being on the show. Your story and your experiences that you've been through have been so insightful, and I'm a better person for having this discussion, for sure. And I know the audience who listen will get so much out of it. So if you're listening to this and you want to get a hold of Scott and find out more about his program, then click on the website link or any of the links and get a hold of him. Go check out his website and reach out to him if you have questions. And go out there and start making your life the way you want it, and let the water flow you to where you need to go. So like we've been talking about. So Scott, any last departing words?
No, that's it, Adam. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for you having me on and having the opportunity to explain what I've gone through, and hopefully it helps somebody out there listening. And if they need help, like I said, contact me. I'm here anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And everybody go out there, unleash the greatness inside yourself, and have an amazing day.